Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Picard. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and it's true, only the supple skin of children has the right sink and bounce for your apocalypse drum. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. We are also going to be joined by my co-host on Backtrekking, Gooey Fame, but he was unable to join us tonight. But I did want to shout out Backtrekking, which is a, if I do say so myself, great Star Trek podcast, which you can find at Backtrekking, Trekking on Twitter. Otherwise, it's just us. And really, this is the way it's always meant to be, isn't it?
Yes. We keep coming back here.
It could be no other way than this. Yeah, we'll get into talking about the Picard episode in just a little bit. Permission to go full whiny bitch on this one.
I mean, were you going to do anything else?
Oh, please. Come on. Yeah, I mean, look, you put something out in the world. It's art. You back it up. You put your heart and soul into it, and then you say, what do you think? And I'll be saying what I think. Kind of looking at the show or the season of Picard as a whole, this first season here. Before we start talking about the episode itself, did you want to talk about, kind of now that you've seen the whole thing, how you feel about the structure of the first season of Star Trek Picard?
I wish they had been given either more episodes or more time. It seems like they struggled with the character and plot development over just these 10. I think that's my biggest critique. If they had only, I was thinking about this episode because I was thinking about like something like Voyager, where you have many more episodes, and then you get episodes that are dedicated to each character, like whether it's their backstory or like a specific problem they're solving that episode. And I wish that they'd had the opportunity to do that with Picard, because I feel like we'd be much more like attached, and I think that we'd understand what was going on maybe a little bit better. Lots of lines are very fast this episode.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point, and I think that knowing what we know and the way it kind of wraps up, it's clear that they want a crew. They want sort of a basic, it's like show pitch, basically. How'd you like to see Picard and his ragtag crew going through the cosmos? And so I guess we've got to get everybody in place by the end of the show so that can happen, but probably too many characters. I think the problem that you're describing could be solved by just having less people that we need to meet and develop and give backstories to and learn about and interact with. If you just cut some of these people, and I wouldn't want to see that. I mean, I like all the characters for the most part, but maybe bringing some of them in season 2 or meeting them once and we'll see that guy again. And then, just having them show up in season 2 or something might have been the way to go. But when you've got so many people in only 10 episodes and a, universe-wide apocalypse, plot in the wings. Yeah, it's short shrift for everybody.
Yeah, there were a lot. There were a couple of scenes this episode where I was like, "Who are all these people? Where am I? Get out of the way!" Like I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah. Or having a really interesting character like Commodore O be reduced to just, we'll destroy them all. Just the, supervillain basic. Well, anyway, we're already talking about it, so I guess let's just get into it. We've just seen the 10th and final episode of the first season of Star Trek Picard, an episode called Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2, and we're here to talk all about it. But as always, a warning. We're setting course for the spoiler zone, listeners, so be warned. We're glad you've decided to join us, but if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2 is Picard and his team are pitted against the Romulans and the synthetics of Coppelius in a final confrontation. The teleplay is by Michael Chabon, showrunner and producer for the show. The story is by Michael Chabon and Akiva Goldsman, and it was directed by Akiva Goldsman. And, of course, as always, it takes place in 2399. There aren't any real interesting facts. I guess I could just repeat the fact from last week that this is one of 11 Star Trek episodes that has a Latin name. Of course, it shares its title with the last episode, so I'm not sure if that counts. But it makes sense because I guess they're twins in a way. And that's about it. Go. The gun's going off. Let's begin. What'd you think of Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2?
I'm crying in the club. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
That was a ride for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Like too many reasons. And Kirsten Beyer knew what this would do to me, and she let it happen anyways. I don't know. I feel like, again, my main, if you want to call it a critique, is that I feel like they needed more time before this episode.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they must have a plan for what's going to happen next season, but it seemed to resolve itself very fast. And yeah, I don't feel like I want to know the characters, like, better.
Yeah, we've talked before in the past about Star Trek two-parters and how they all, the first one, and this is true of a lot of two-part TV show stories, but the first one seems like a lot of padding, and then the second one is where we really get into it. And almost conversely, now that we've seen both of them, the first one feels like a lot of the setup and conflict, and the second one is just things are just happening. We're just getting quick resolutions to a lot of the problems that we set up in the previous episode and in the series, and they're getting satisfied, I think, in my opinion, unsatisfying ways, in ways that don't really change the status quo of the world. I just realized, I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I just realized that all the androids, all the synths have names that are similar to Data and Lore in that they communicate information. So you've got like Rune, Codex, Arcana, Saga, Sutra. They're all like also book names. Like, I don't know when we're going to get Cartouche and Tijuana Bible, but maybe they just didn't show up on screen. But so that kind of level of, I like that attention to detail, but also it's like, come on. I mean, like that's just so by rote. It's just like, Data and Lore, like B4. I don't love B4, but I guess I get where they're going with it. But it's like, get the thesaurus. We got to come up with like names for, books or objects that carry information. Anyway, that's just a random complaint. In this episode, we immediately pick up from where the last episode left off. Narek is running to reach the artifact, and he does reach it. The XBs are just kind of hanging out. It's like, guys, we've got Universal Armageddon happening. Does anybody want to help out? No, okay. And he meets up with Larissa, who is there, and I don't know if we are. Do we know how she got there?
She was already, wasn't she on the? She was on the cube the whole time.
Well, she was on the cube. She got assaulted by like 50 XBs, and
Mm-hmm.
it seemed to possibly transport away, presumably onto somebody else's ship, but instead she just shows up here. So I don't know. But anyway, she's got her thing set up. She's not out. She's down, but not out. We're going to figure this thing out. We head back to the, I don't know, the Synth Town? I don't know what you call it, but...
Synthville?
Synthville. There you go. With Picard is playing with the butterfly. Keep an eye on that. That's coming back. And Soji has gone full Kool-Aid now. She's, her line is that synths have never been given a choice or a chance by organics. And so that's the situation that you find yourself in, old man. Back in the artifact, Narek says, look, I got these grenades. I'm going to blow up these flower ships. We're going to get that old Seb Sheneb, no problem. He leaves to do that, and we see Elnor follow him. So Elnor is going to get to do something. Maybe. We'll see. On La Serena, Raffi and Rios are screwing around. They have to fix the ship, and they're going to use the fixie thing, which the Ocarina of Time, which you have to think happy thoughts, and it'll fix your ship. This thing had some kind of name, and I didn't get what the name was. It's a technical sounding name.
I don't. Just they said it, and she was like, "It fixes things," and then I was just like, "Sonic screwdriver, got it." And now I don't know. I don't know what the name of it was.
Exactly. We go back to Girardi, and she's meeting with Dr. Soong. We're talking about this whole consciousness transfer thing, and I think we get the idea that I thought that they were going to put her to work like immediately. Like, we have to do something to prepare for the overlords to arrive or something, but she's just kind of wandering around the compound and getting into trouble. Back on La Serena, Narek shows up. He's throwing rocks at the ship. He's like, let's work together. What'd you think about his face turn?
He's a lot of things happened this episode where I was just like, sure, that might, I mean, full stop, but I'm like, that might as well be happening right now. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, yeah, I kind of thought he was going to come around somehow just because of his whole thing with Soji where he was like, but I love her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had conflict before this.
Yeah. And he's, he's a Romulan, not to, just define the entire species, but they like secrecy and treachery and whatnot. And so I thought it was interesting that he could make this really desperate kind of plea to his sister of, look at what we've come through, and who would have thought we'd be here? Look at us, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna take care of this thing. And then immediately he gets to La Serena. He's like, we got to stop this thing right away. Let me help you guys out. I didn't know if it was totally motivated outside of what you were saying about, he loves her. They try to call JL. It's not working. Narek says they're building this transmitter thing that's going to call in the Reapers, and that's what we've got. And then again, Elnor shows up like, hold up a minute. I'm going to cut your head off. And of course he can't. So I think we put Elnor in a situation where he can't affect like the plot at all.
Yeah. I
wish that and spoilers for the end of just me taking us through the episode here. Narek just ghosts. Like, we don't even see him heft his rucksack and look over his shoulder and be like, another day. Like, he is out of the episode.
Irish goodbye.
And yeah, and while everybody else is, while the scene transition moth is taking us from vignette to vignette, that'd be fine. But like, what if Narek is like, we did it, I saved the universe, it was worth it. No, Elnor's like, I'm glad you feel that way. Head off. Like, that way he gets to like fulfill his thing. But we don't get something like that. I'm tired of improving this stuff. So
he has to
anyway.
Get back in like the fridge where they keep like Ethan Peck and like Sherlock era Benedict Cumberbatch. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll see him again.
Storage unit in LA.
Yeah, back in deep storage. Back in Synth Town, Synthville. Soong is transferring Saga's memory. He says, again, we still don't really understand how these robots work. Agnes is doing something to Saga's face. We'll get a payoff on that a little later. Back on La Serena, Elnor is like, I don't like you. They're sitting around a campfire, and he's like, yeah, would you like Gamadon, the Romulan Ragnarok? He tells it the story of the end and the two twin demons that are going to come out and do this and that. And again, I know that this entire season has kind of been about the Romulans, or a subsect of them, who are essentially like religious weirdos. Like they have there's this prophecy, this idea, this religious text, which has a technological basis because they're getting it, from this mind meld, the admonition. And I just thought it was interesting because we deal with religion so infrequently in Star Trek that the idea that this group of people who have warp drives and phasers and all this stuff are like, no, like the Book of Revelation is totally real and you got to watch out for it. Like, I thought that there'd be, we could have explored that more. I thought there was richer Earth there to tell. Because everybody else is looking at him like, weird. Okay, dude, that sounds scary, but I mean, do you believe in magic?
It reminded me of like I wasn't raised religious, and so then when I took this religion course at a university when I was still in high school, and it was like Religion 1001, and it was just like reading the Bible and being like, what happened? Like, you're like, it's what? Like, this is you're like a skin drum? Like,
right.
So like listening to him talking, I was like, bruh, you're looking at like sentient robots. You're talking about a horn? You're talking about like it's like Norse mythology. What's happening?
Yeah. Pike talks about that his dad was like a professor in comparative religion, and these people live in a world of appearing and disappearing things and subspace ghosts, and like their world is crazy. So just having something like Jahala Ghul and the 1,000 Days of Pain, like is that any weirder than the things that they see every day? I don't know. Someday, maybe with a future series, Trek will maybe try to tackle that, because I would really like to see that. Then we get a scene that really just boils down how they've sold out O. We just quickly cut to O's flagship in the Armada, and she's like, our great work is nearly at an end. And that's her entire contribution.
Shots were like fast,
her
dude.
I was merciless.
I feel like they must have cut something from this. I don't know, some of the scenes I was like, that seems like you had to like cut around something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially her scenes, like they were like fast, like they cut from her fast.
Yeah. And having her be, fascinatingly, have her be half Vulcan, half Romulan. If she doesn't show emotion, or she doesn't really do anything with the lines, you can just say, well, she doesn't have emotions. But what would that be like? Like, would she show emotions? How would she kind of comport herself now that she doesn't have to pretend to be Commodore O anymore? You're not going to get that in this episode. Back on the planet of, they were calling, it's supposed to be whatever, it's Capellius, but then they were calling it like Guligoo 4 or whatever. I don't know. We do another Star Wars by saying how we're going to get back into Synthville. We're going to do the old fake prisoner situation. So we bring Narek in. And I think it's cool that the synths are like, we're going to just wipe out all organic life in about 45 minutes. But yeah, come on in, guys. Get a hot dog or something. Just chill until you're all dead. And Rios has a molecular solvent or something. They wanted to use the solvent to take the tower out, this transmitter, and he's got a soccer ball which is gonna it's gonna have something to do with that. There's grenades, there's solvent, there's something.
Yeah, I thought the grenade was in the soccer ball.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway,
I was like full send on that. I was like waiting. I was like, kick it. I was waiting for the goal shot. I was like,
you're gonna kick. Yeah.
You're gonna work up to this, and then he's not gonna like toss the ball in the air and then jump and just kick it and like bullseye like right into Soji's forehead. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
It's just like bonk, dude. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. No, that doesn't happen. We find out that Dr. Jurati was ripping out that poor woman's eye because she's going to do a Demolition Man and get into Picard's prison cell. She's busting him out.
Now we know they're wet on the inside. They're squishy.
They're some kind of wet, yeah. we know that. We also know that they can get their asses handed to them by sexy Dr. Kung Fu, but we'll get to that in a little bit. They immediately get to La Serena. It's not even a problem. Speaking about things that are sort of cut out. In the meantime, Alton Soong sees that he sees the younglings video. He sees that Sutra has killed Saga. Knows what everybody in the universe already knows, that Sutra is a bad guy.
She burned down the temple.
What?
Like Kylo Ren. They're like, he burned down the temple.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes. Star Wars. On La Serena, Picard and Jurati are set. They're figuring out that they need to stall until the fleet gets here. I love the fact that, I mean, I guess you can give it to Picard. He's been living Star Trek for his entire life. He knows that the Federation will swoop in at the last second, even though nobody's told him that. They haven't even told him, like, oh boy, I hope we can get there in time. We've got your message, but you're a long ways away. Like, it's just, they just get there. I thought nobody knew where this planet was. Doesn't matter. And so Picard, in a Picard speech, says that, fear is a bad teacher. We need to teach these synths that we're not all bad, not all organics. And so we're going to take off to stop the Romulans somehow. Back in Synthville, we're having the synth family meeting. And Sutra's basically just like, okay, everybody, get ready. We're going to kill all the humans. It's pretty cool. Soong pulls her aside and says that he knows what she did. And he just shuts her down. Like a character that we're basically setting up. It seemed like they were setting up to be the big bad, or at least could be a character study in Soji and Daj were just girls who were just trying to make their way. They didn't have any like good switch or bad switch. Sutra is it's like this weird. I heard a theory online that like, what if Sutra is, sort of a, if not a direct ancestor, kind of a symbolic ancestor to Lore. Like, what if she is the treacherous type of Soong android? Like, what would that look like? Zap, she's down.
Which I was like, we're talking about like their rights to live, and you have like a button
that just shuts them down.
You have a kill switch just like in your pocket. I was like, I mean, if I was an old man on a planet full of androids, I maybe would want that. But also, he's like, these are my children.
Yeah. Just in case you don't get grandfathered into this whole organic thing. I know. Yeah.
I was like,
okay. Well, I can see it. Raffi gives the signal, telling Dr. Sexy Kung Fu Man and Elnor to go ham on a bunch of androids who are super fast and super strong. I don't really know how that works, but they do okay. La Serena is in orbit, trying to stop the Romulans, trying to think of what they're going to do. Back in Synthville, Rios throws a grenade or something, or he launches one of these grenade things, and Soji just catches it and then throws it. And so I guess theoretically she could catch 9 more grenades if she had to while she's doing her little hollow Jenga thing. So that's not going to... They don't have any way to stop them, or at least they just stop trying to stop them. On the artifact, Seven just finds Rizzo. Oh, here's Rizzo. And they get into a fight, and I thought it was cool that Rizzo called her a half-meat, which is like, what?
Yeah.
You gross
Savage
person, you have to die. Yeah. In orbit, the Armada has arrived, and things look bad. The flowers are sent out to stop them, but as predicted, it's not gonna stop all of them, just some. Back on the artifact, we're having a knockdown, drag-out fight between Rizzo and Seven, and I like the fact that Rizzo is kind of psyching Seven out. She's trying to play psychological warfare as she's kind of getting her ass handed to her. And she does. Seven just throws her off a thing, again, Star Wars style, and tells her that it's for Hugh. And boy, it would be a real shame if we never saw Larissa Rizzo again.
You think she's coming back?
Well, she beamed out before. We didn't hear a splat. So if she's got a parachute or something.
Didn't hear the phaser hit though either. Could just be deep, tall.
Yeah. Or maybe she gets hurt and they use Reborg technology to bring her back, and now she hates herself and everyone else for being a half meat. I don't know. They've never taken my ideas before. If we go back to Synth Town, Picard is doing his best in orbit. This is where my notes kind of fall apart. Because I know that he calls Soji and asks her to turn the beacon off, and she's not really going for it. And Jurati starts to talk about the Picard maneuver, and this is where I start to get scared. She starts to figure out that I guess they can use the sonic screwdriver to create many copies of the ship, like a mirror image type situation, which is, you know what? It slows the fleet down for 30 seconds, which is all they needed, because
they should have done it like TOS style, like just like one gigantic image of her face. Just like right in front of O's ship, and she's like, "Hi," and O's like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, you were supposed to project ships. It's just like a bunch of Jurati faces. They're like, "What is this?" Or just more flowers. I don't know. I wrote dumb, this is dumb, but I'm not even sure if that was about that. The beacon fires, and it more than being like a telecommunications or a signal beacon, it's actually opening a portal. They love their portals in CBS Trek so far. And so it's opening this portal. That seems really bad. The real Starfleet fleet shows up, all made up of the same ship design, which I thought was a little disappointing. And, of course, we get what a lot of people thought was going to happen. Riker is there in command of the fleet on the USS Zhenghe. And he says that this planet's under our protection, under the Treaty of Algernon, so get out of here. And this is the part where you think that the Romulans are going to back down, but instead she's like, "Oh no, let's fight. Let's do this. We're gonna fight." So now we have a situation where the Romulans and the humans are going to destroy each other. The cyber worms from hell are going to destroy everybody. It's good times. At this point, Picard is having trouble. He looks like he is not doing well from a health perspective. He calls Soji again, tells her, give us a chance. We can make the right choice here. We can save each other, essentially. And so that's enough. Soji then turns the thing off. The hellworms go back to wherever they came from. And Picard has one last exchange with Riker, where Riker's like, "I know you got it from here." And Picard's like, "I've got it, don't worry. Okay, bye." And then the second he leaves, Picard's like, "Ugh," and like falls over. So clearly he doesn't have it. Soji beams them down, and everybody cries because Jean-Luc Picard passes away in their arms.
This is where I was like, you need to move. I was like, there's too many people here and I can't see Elnor's face. And like, I was so mad when he didn't, obviously he's back now, so it's like fine or whatever. But right. I was so mad he didn't say anything to Elnor. I was like, nothing.
Yeah. And once again, it's like, oh, and Elnor, yeah. So it's just, I don't know. You create a character. You think you have some storylines or some things you want to do with them, but it's not really happened with Elnor. We don't really, I mean, we kind of know what's going to happen, but I like the fact that they took some time with it, and we get a little montage, a sunset montage, a fun conversation between Seven and Rios about their places in the universe, a wordless scene between Elnor and Raffi, which was kind of nice. And then we see Picard again, and this is like it's like the Harry Potter thing where he's in the train station or whatever.
Yeah.
And Picard sees Data, and Data's like, "Oh, you're in a massively complex quantum simulation, which contains essentially a digital version of me, a reconstruction from the memories that we took from B4, who." B4 gets screwed in all of this, right? Like, I hope somebody, now that the band's lifted, I hope somebody tries to put B4 back together and get him up on his feet. But anyway, and it's an afterlife of sorts. I think this is a good thing, even though it's a little contrived, but this is that, like we said, the Harry Potter thing, this is that conversation with a character who is, when you're in that liminal space between life and death. And they have a pretty good exchange, I think. We get a declaration of love between them. You also get Data saying, "Hey, do me a favor, kill me. Could you kill me?"
I have beef. I have grade A beef.
Yeah.
And it's
some real Wagyu situation.
Yeah, it's the good stuff. Like, you're telling me that Data's been sitting in there doing nothing but like thinking about Sherlock Holmes for however many years. Like, he's just in there, and then the second Picard kicks the bucket, he's like, get back out there, bud. And when you do, like, pull the USB drive out. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, put him...
The maxi USB drives, yeah.
Literally, I'm like, put him in the thing. What do you do? That's an old man. Where? Like, is it me? Plug him into
put Data
something.
In the golem?
Yes. I'm like, he's right there. Plug him into something.
Oh my god, yeah, then Pinocchio gets to be a semi-real, gooey boy.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm so much more angry now. You should have said that.
I thought that's what was going to happen, because he was like talking about, oh, life has more meaning when it's going to end because of like friendships and relationships, and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna plug it in. They're gonna download him. He's gonna go hyperdrive, and then they just yank it.
I wish they'd done that. I think that's a really good idea. I'm frustrated. What if we had known at any point in the previous 9 hours that Data existed in something like this? Do you know what I mean? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like I said, I like this scene. I think it was neat, but why save this to the end? What if we add this to the stakes? Like, what if you know that it's not just because, you know, we've got his daughters. Picard's trying to honor his memory and save his legacy. But what if he knows that, like, literally, like, Data or what's left of him is at stake here? Because we do get, you know, okay, so I like your Pinocchio thing. I think Data definitely deserved that. But we do get the thing from him, which is saying, I've always wanted to be human, and the most human thing you can do is die. And so I kind of want to do that too. Like, I thought that did make sense from a character perspective. And it's also good for Picard because this whole time he's been trying to let go of, you know, the memory of his friend, and now he has to let go of his entire friend. Like, I think all that works, but what if we knew about any of this before the last 10 minutes of this episode? And also, is this, they talk about dreams and stuff like that. Is this connected to the dreams that he was having before, or is that just part of his we can't say Ironic syndrome for some reason?
I think it's different from the dreams, but the dreams make it confusing.
Okay.
But here, like, imagine if Picard's in there with Data, and Data's like, get right, walk into the light, bud. And Picard's like, Uno reverse card, and they download, like, they punch Data into some like 22-year-old, like, fresh out of acting school, and the next season, instead of like Picard having had this like thing of like never being able to like let go of Data, all of a sudden it's Data that's in like a human body like he always wanted, and he has to deal with the raw emotions of letting Picard
teenage
go.
Data.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sold. We got a lot of retconning to do. Get Shaven on the phone. But that doesn't happen. Picard goes back. He wakes up. Happy birthday, you're a robot now. You can keep Picarding forever. Only not forever, because even though this is like an ageless body, we've taken all the superpowers out, and also you're going to die pretty much on schedule anyway. Which is just like, I mean, if you're going to do something, do it, right? Are they?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Are they doing a thing where it's because Picard never hated the synths, but are they doing a thing that now that Picard is a synth, he's like the perfect person to be the? Because look, everybody, I'm still the Jean-Luc Picard who saved the galaxy a million times, but I'm also a synth myself, and so I can help heal the thing between these two peoples, which we don't have time for because it's over. Is that what it is, or what?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm a little surprised. I mean, obviously it was very emotional, and it lots of things are going to happen because he was dead for 10 minutes. But
yeah.
I'm confused as to the point.
Yeah.
Like, what's the like, because I was assuming, Patrick Stewart is like, I'd love to come back, but let's it might be time to axe him. So let's do one season with Patrick Stewart as Picard, like always, and then reboot, same old Picard again. just fresh out of acting school, just new, shiny. Um,
I mean, if he's a robot, I guess you can always just if Picard or Stewart wants to quit or he can't go on, then you just go, oh, well, he got hit by a something or other, and then we tune him up and we changed his face, and it could be Picard still or not. They're kind of Doctor Whoing him a little bit because now that he's in like an ageless
is he a robot?
body. He's a synthetic, whatever that means. I don't know.
Because the thing with the golem, I thought she was like, oh my god, you made something completely organic. You know what I mean?
Right, but I mean, yeah, but it's the whole Blade Runner thing. Like they're robots, but they're made of like organic tissue or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a real uncomfortable breakfast too after they wake him up, because it's like, yeah, okay, so Soji tried to kill everybody and hasn't apologized for that. Agnes is a literal murderer, and I stole Alton's body. But any more croissants at all? Yeah, that's an interesting. I didn't see that as like the happy scene that they were trying to set up.
Yeah, it was like the post-surgery prognosis when they're like, "We got it. You're gonna be okay."
Yeah, right.
And he's
yeah,
like, "Wow."
Little bandage on his head. And then we get the little scene at the end that, to take this all the way Star Wars, is the Ewok Village celebration. Soji and Rios and Agnes are a couple now, I guess. Seven and Raffi are a couple.
Thank you, God. This is this is why we've been going through the pandemic. This is what we were waiting for.
I mean, and they're playing a little Calto too. I don't hate it. I just don't like many things on this show. It's just like totally unmotivated. Like, have they even had a conversation?
I wish that it hadn't been preceded by the smooch.
Oh yeah.
Because then I'm just like, you're coupling them off already. Like, let's see some like good old fashioned like weird high school tension on this tiny starship.
Eleanor's making out with the hospitality hologram.
Literally. Oh my God.
Got somebody. Yeah. And it just had a real feel of like, well, we've got a lot more mysteries to solve in this old galaxy.
I know. I was like, where are you going?
A quick line. Yeah, I know, right? Like, we get a quick line about the ban being lifted. So I guess that was taken care of. And we get an engage, and we're it. That's it. That's out. That's Picard season 1. I feel like, especially in this episode, but probably also in a lot of previous episodes, all the complications that are introduced are removed almost completely without consequence, and really without any awareness of any significance on the part of anything. if you know what I mean. Like, we spend all this time, not really doing anything, like with Rizzo, for instance. Then she's just diabolical for a while, although fun to watch. Then we get like this sad backstory for her, and you're like, kind of, don't make me identify with the bad guy. Interesting. And then like, no, she's just a freak, just a horrible person. And our favorite character from Voyager just, throws her like a sack of potatoes off a cliff. And that's the end of that. While she was targeting La Serena with the Borg cube weapons, so you think that okay, here's a complication, like they get hit with a Borg shot. Now what? No, she's just gone.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge payoff.
No.
So like, at the end of the episode, I wasn't like,
and
now I know who the Red Angel is. You know what I mean? Like, I was like,
well, yeah, making Picard a synth, that doesn't really have a payoff either, other than just, remember in the first episode we said that there's something wrong with him. Mm-hmm. And also we don't ever get any indication that somebody, like if he became a synth and went back to the Federation Council, that would change things. And it doesn't matter anyway, because we just chased the Romulans off and everybody is cool with synths again. Like, Picard is back in a different body, but still an old body that's going to die soon. Nothing's different. Nothing's changed. I don't know. It's just, I'm a little frustrated. Here's the big question that there's two questions that I ask myself when I see things. I always ask myself, if this wasn't Star Trek, would I like it? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Like, I'm not like, what if this was Battlestar Galactica or just random sci-fi show? And I don't think I would. But I guess I haven't thought about it too much. And the other question I always ask myself is, do the people that that are making this, do they think this is good? Sometimes you'll read interviews with, I don't know, Ira Stephen Bear or something about maybe a DS9 episode that wasn't that great. And you'll get him saying something like, yeah, we knew that wasn't going to be that good. Like, we had to save money because we had a big thing the next week, and we couldn't get the guest star we wanted, so we just had to kind of muddle through. I don't think that's what's going on here. I think Michael Chabon thinks this is the best sci-fi TV that's ever been aired. And that is even more depressing. That makes it even worse.
I think that, I don't know what Michael Chabon thinks because
the names Sutra and Sunday Funnies and all I think it's just so self-satisfied. It's
hard to understand the motives of like the man at the top of the like totem pole on like a movie or like, do you know what I mean? Or like with James Cameron and Avatar, I'm like, where, who?
That's Nitrogen Narcosis, I think.
Yeah,
he's done too many deep dives, and he's like Blue Cat movies. Yeah.
But I think here's what I think. When you make something like this that like it's clearly like they're trying to carry a little weight here. Like it's back to like the CBS dynamic where they're like make the money, you know what I mean? So I don't know what were they told to do versus like allowed to do, and what were they told to cut, and how much money did they have, and were they like not allowed to make episodes longer, like who had like the creative control, you know what I mean? So it's like there's too many factors where I'm like, I don't know what, maybe Michael Chabon is totally,
but even if they're following some corporate mandate, like what they get at the end of this is not, there would have been a lot of ways to get just a new Scooby Gang on a new ship like we have at the end of this show, and in better ways too. And as far as like tackling issues goes, I guess it's kind of like a racism, measure. Clearly it's a Measure of a Man type story, but I don't know. It frustrates me. I think about something like The Outcast, which is about a lot of things. It's about discrimination against somebody for their sexual orientation, for their gender or whatever. And yet it just happens on this one little weird side planet. One of our crew members is involved. It only really affects Riker. It ends badly and sadly because the character doesn't get what they want. And yet we just kind of keep going, and it's like these little vignettes or these little scenes of social tragedy or social triumph. I think one of the things about knowing Trek, when you say that like this creator is a Trekkie or this creator knows what he's doing, it's not just knowing like what a Kunat Caliphate is, or how many times the Delta Flyer is blown up. It's knowing what a Trek story looks like, and if Trek has done that story before, and why, and what they got out of it, and why would we do this again, and what are we trying to get out of it or say. And there's just a lot of Picard speeches in this series about fear and hope and all this stuff, and I don't know. I feel like they definitely want it to be, there's parts of Discovery that are just like, oh, this is just a cool thing, we're just, going to the mirror universe or whatever. It doesn't really tell us a lot about our characters, I don't think. But yeah, it's very aspirational. But I think Picard is supposed to be aspirational, but I don't feel good.
It's also the first season, you know what I mean? Like I'm willing to give them a lot of leeway in that, like, I feel like a lot of television series, like you need that first season to trip a little bit, like fumble, like a little, like be entertaining, but like
and it's
kind
certainly
of
characteristic for Trek to not excel in its first season.
I'm not like, it's like I enjoyed it, like it was entertaining, like what have I been as taken with it as I was with Disco? Like definitely not. But I'm hoping that like next season we're able to do something that's like I don't know how to like a little bit more solid. It's like it parts of this season were so fast and parts of it like weren't fast enough. Um and so I don't know if that would have been helped if they'd had more episodes or what, but now that we, it's like now we know these characters a little more. They've like been through it together. So like I think that they could really improve next season. I don't know. Even being that this is I don't know. I liked it. It's definitely not like my favorite. Like, am I gonna rewatch it like right away before like we get closer to the next season coming out? Like, probably not before. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, a couple more things. Seriously, where's Narek? Come on, what happened?
When did he left when they were blowing up the beacon?
I guess. I mean, I think the last time we see him, they're just holding him down, and he's like, "No, Soji, don't do this." Yeah. And then literally, like, I don't think we see him again. So,
he's being sneaky. He's being sneaky somewhere else.
He's just poof, puff of smoke.
He had something creepy to say to his sister.
Let's talk about what we, yeah, well, good luck with that. Let's talk about what we think could happen in the second season. We are, of course, talented prognosticators. I said that Picard was going to die, and you guys said I was crazy, but I guess I was only half right. We are still, the implications of the fact that we live in a galaxy that's haunted by cybernetic hellworms, like, this isn't over. Like, that's problematic.
Yeah.
What do we think is going to happen in the second season of Picard? What other vital Picard episode will we have to try to dig into? We're going to do a tapestry or a lessons. Ooh, maybe we'll finally get to do that. Mark and Gendel get to do his Inner Light sequel.
The one where Q makes them be Robin Hood characters.
Yeah, that's it for sure. Or like a Dixon Hill, like an extended Dixon Hill situation. Oh yeah, it'll be like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for Dixon Hill. Dixon Hill is like in his 80s now, but he's got one more thing he's got to do.
And a son he never knew he had, and it's Shia LaBeouf.
Jesus. Right out of film school, 22 years old, yeah.
Exactly! Oh my god, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, obviously, like, it must have a lot to do with the Romulans, with that conflict, but I have no idea what, I mean, you're right, the worms must be coming back.
Yeah, well, I suppose, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's all kinds of, like, existential nightmares in the Trek galaxy here and there. If they really want to do Mass Effect, he needs to go back to Earth and punch that reporter lady. If we're going to take, like, let's say the implications or the untied up threads of the season, I would say that I think they need to deal with the perceived malaise in the Federation and in Starfleet. Mm-hmm. I think we were getting the idea that things maybe aren't so great as we thought they were, and hopefully they will be looking to, I don't know how Picard's going to solve that, but at least address that. Do some Klingon stuff. We'll get Worf in there.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We're far enough away from Disco Season 1. Let's go back to the Klingons.
Break it out. It's funny because I feel like when Disco was airing every episode, I was like, I have no idea what they're going to do next episode. And now I'm like, oh, I really don't know what's going to happen next season. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm very surprised by how quickly the space worms went past. Like it was like 1-2 shots and then they're like, oh no, it's closing. And I was like, but there's like a squid in there. Like what is the game plan?
Yeah.
So you must be right about that because that's not right. They can't just
Who, by the way, yeah, I thought that maybe like, oh, the portal would close, on them, and then they would be cut off, and we'd see. Oh, I'm glad those things didn't come through. That was bad. But as it's closing, the worm's kind of like, oh no, we're not gonna. Okay, we'll just pull it back. Just kind of, okay, you can close it.
It's like chill.
Well, I think that we have pegged the fact that I think we're surprised that there was a Picard series in the first place, and we definitely don't know what they want to do for a second season. That's something else. Like, I don't mean to be a real jerk, but for this is why you came back. Like, in all the interviews, it's like, I didn't want to come back until we had the story. There was like, this is what you came back for? Okay.
They must, like, I would give a lot to be able to see like the storyboards where they're like, not like for one episode, but they're like the big, like the game plan. You know what I mean? I'm like, what is going on? I think also like quarantine's kind of hidden.
It's just like,
and then we
Narek, question mark? Sorry. Go ahead.
I think quarantine's kind of hidden. And then we sit down and we watch this and we're like, what's happening?
They get to be outside? Wow.
We're like, oh my God, it's sunny out
utopia.
There. It's warm.
Well, I think we are ready to close the book on Picard Season 1, unless there's something else that you want to get off your chest.
I don't think so. I had a good. They keep I feel like we give them a little bit of a hard time, but I think you're too big brained. But every episode, there's at least one moment where I'm like, oh my God! Like every episode, I'm like, oh my God! Like I'm surprised every time, like in a good way. Like when Riker came on screen. I was like, oh my God, like Dad, like I was like, oh my God, he's here.
And he brought pizza for everybody. Yeah,
I know. I was like, oh my God. So it's just like, what a nice thing to have. I don't know. I liked it. They have a couple things to work on, which hopefully they'll get to do that next season. But yeah.
Well, I would tentatively agree with you, and hopefully we'll be meeting back sometime soon to talk about the second season of Picard. But that is it for our show this week and this season. Thanks for joining us, listeners. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPod for updates and to get notified when new episodes of Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage come out when the show returns. And you can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage, or email us at eistpod@gmail.com. Also, while you're on the internet, why not stop by your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed and give us a rating and a review, because it really does help us out. If you want to help the show grow, you can stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/eistpod. And as always, if you like the show, tell a friend. And one more thing, I'll make my last sort of plea here. I'd mentioned on a previous show that I was assembling a campaign for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, and since we're all quarantined now and you have to be at home, we're going to play by the internet and use Roll20 or something like that. And I've got a couple people who have signed on, and we're getting ready to launch now that Picard is wrapping up. My Thursdays are free, so if you want in on this Star Trek Adventures RPG game, you can contact me, send me an email at eistpod@gmail.com. And before we go on, I want to recommend, as I mentioned before, Backtrekking, another Star Trek show on our network. And I'd also recommend one of the newest shows on our network, Sailor Noob. It's a podcast where I and my co-host, Mika and Hana, talk about episodes of Sailor Moon from the perspective of an expert and the perspective of somebody who doesn't know anything about Sailor Moon at all. And it's a fun look at a 90s anime classic. Discoverage will return someday. We don't know when, because Discovery Season 3, we did get a quick ad. Did you get an ad at the beginning of your Picard of Michael Burnham?
Yeah, with the flag, yeah.
Yeah. No date, though, so we don't know.
Coming soon.
When we'll be coming back, but we will, of course, be back to cover that, and Picard, and Lower Decks, and whatever else they've got coming up for us. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISDpod to get notified when we're going. And you can also check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I'm joined by a special guest to discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series. We also have news from the Trek sphere and interviews with special guests. On our latest episode, I talk with Ken Tripp, who is one of the hosts of the Standard Orbit podcast, and he has also served in the Navy as a senior chief petty officer for 25 years. We talk about the depiction of the military and the Navy in Star Trek and how accurate Starfleet is. You can check that out at enterprisingindividuals.com. Ella, we did it. We made it. Thanks, as always, for joining me to talk about Picard. Remind people where they can find you online.
We are at generationsgeek.com, generationsgeek on Instagram and Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, people, check out Generations Geek on Twitter then, and that's it for us. Thanks for listening. We're signing off. This is Aaron for Ella saying, live long and prosper.